Hi everyone, I know it's been a while since my last video. Life just got in the way, preventing me making some for a while. Today's video is a bit of a follow-up on one of my last videos, which is on my Alfawise U20 3D printer. As you can see over here, it looks different. And that's because it is different there. I have put a new hot end on there. I have put a new extruder on there and a new part cooling fan. The hot end that I've gone for is the e3D Volcano, currently fitted with a 0.8mm nozzle. The extruder is an e3D Titan. The part cooling fan system that I got on there is a Pet's Fang. I'm going to leave links for all this in the description below. In order to make the modifications work properly, I also had to flash Marlin onto the printer, which, thanks to a French 3D printing forum, they have managed to find a way that you can get Marlin working on the Alfawise printers, because you need to change firmware settings, and the Alfawise U20 is closed firmware. Alfawise or Gearbest have said that they're going to be unlocking the firmware to allow people to do what they like with it, but that was months ago and it still hasn't happened. I'm going to put some footage on of some of the upgrades that I did. It isn't the full footage because that would take ages. It's just showing little bits and pieces that I did during the build. Sorry for the video being shaky, that's because I was hand holding my phone while doing it. And the audio wasn't the greatest because I didn't have my microphone plugged in. I was just doing it on the phone microphone. So yeah, here you go. Have a look and see what I did. This is what I got so far. The screws on the build plate are from the power supply unit for this. I just had to check inside, make sure that the fans are both 24 volts. So the hot end cooling fan and the part cooling fan, both 24 volt, which is good because I've got 24 volt fans. On the build plate you can see a couple of bits ready. A bracket that attaches, that is from the e3D V6 kit, and I don't need those on the build plate. Well, I will need them to cut cable ties. Fan cover off. So that's got the hot end cooling fan and it's got the part cooling fan. Both of those are removed. Just pull back the I can't think of the word for this, like the flexible conduit type stuff, cable cover, yeah, I can't think of the word. Pull that back, and as you can see they have solder joints for everything here. So when I fit the new bits, I'm going to have to do some soldering and heat shrinking. Not holdering and heat shrinking, but yeah, I have to do those. Got the existing hot end here and the rest of it, so I'll get that off and start fitting the new bits on. Okay, as you can see, I've now got a base plate fitted. This is to fit the Pet's Fang duct, and it's also the clamp for the e3D V6 heatsink. I will post links to everything I've used down in the description. It's just held back with some M3 screws. I did have to put a couple of M3 screws in these two holes, because that's where the front part of the clamp goes on. Tightening those is going to be a little bit fun, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, the next stage is to start assembling the hot end itself. I've got a heater block here. It is the Volcano block, it's got the extra long nozzles. I could have gone for the Super Volcano, but Volcano will do for now. So yeah, Volcano nozzle pack. I'll start assembling that and catch you back in a minute. Okay, as the assembly goes on, I've just put the thermistor into the hot end heat block. Now I'm just checking the heater cartridge It is stamped on there that it's 24 volt 30 watt, but e3D in the instructions to this say check it with a multimeter, so that's just what I'm doing here. If it's, I can't remember the value, but it's around 19 ohms is the 24 volt heater, and the 12 volt heater is a lot lower, so I've just checked that. That's good. I can continue with what I was doing. Okay, here we have the hot end assembled. It's got the thermistor in, it's got the heater in. I've put the heat break in, and as it shows in the e3D instructions, you put some thermal paste onto the heat break on the threads. Next thing I'm going to do is going to be screwing on the heatsink and go from there. Okay, I've got the heatsink attached. I've got the PTFE Bowden tube in. I'm using Capricorn tubing just because I've heard good things about it and I want to see how good it is. That's all in place. I've installed the fan on the fan duct that comes with the kit and installed it there. The next thing will be mounting it in place. I'm going to mount it before I worry about all the wiring, because I've got to work out the way I want to do it. Sadly, the loom that comes up for the extruder or the hot end has a plug to go into the control box, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do, especially with the wires for the heater. I might just run them along and sort of bodge them in, because I don't really want to go cutting the heater wires unless I have to. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, what I've decided to do for the wiring is, this is the plug that goes into the control box. I've just taken the cable cover off, exposed all the inner wires. There's a little bit of damage on these anyway from where it went into the plug. So what I'm planning on doing is I will redo this, and I think yellow and black can stay, because that's up here, which goes to, it might be yeah, yellow and blue. Yellow and blue can stay because they are for, let me just check. Yellow and blue are for the, let's get you back in shot. Yellow and blue, just tracing it through, that's that one, which it's difficult to hold the phone in place. Yeah, yellow and blue goes to the hot end cooling fan, so this, I'll have to replace the yellow and blue. The red and black is existing in there at the moment, so these ones can stay run through, because my new part cooling fans, I'm doing a twin duct, so with that it's going to be easier to just cut these plugs off and solder onto existing. Okay, I've reached the point that I need to do a bit of soldering. As you can see, I've put some heat shrink tubing around everything first. That'll be to go underneath the clamp, hold it all in place, and then should prevent any cable damage. I've already cut off the heat shrink on these, so I just need to desolder there, and then strip the new wires back, solder on. I've cut off all the plugs on the end, and I have made a little note there telling me which wire goes to which pin on this plug. Luckily, probably won't focus, but there are numbers written on the plug, so, or the socket really, but yep, I can get that desoldered, use proper solder, 60/40 lead tin, or tin lead. Just floats a lot better. Bit of heat shrink to go over. Okay, as you can see, I've now got all the new wires attached, heat shrink on, that bit of heat shrink there, just to try and protect the wires a bit more. Just got to put this back together, and then I can plug it in and check it all works. So then I've got to do hot tightening of the nozzle. I also have to do a bit more soldering up here, and work out what I'm going to do with the fang that's going to be going over there. So I'll probably leave plugging it in until a bit later. I'll just get it all ready. Also, you'll probably notice on this look up here, the extruder isn't on. I will be fitting an e3D, I cannot remember the name of it, a Titan extruder. I've got that here, and the motor does run reverse from a normal extruder, so e3D does say to change it in the firmware, change it so that it's an inverse setting, but because this is closed source software or firmware on here, and I haven't flashed Marlin because that's still in development, I will just be swapping 2 wires over on the extruder plug, and then doing it that way means that I should still be able to use it. I'll try it, see what happens. If not, I'll go back to the original Alfawise extruder, but I've got the Titan there to fit and see how that works. Okay, once I got the printer set up with all the new additions and I modified the firmware to allow me to use it, I did have to make a few tweaks. One of them is the X height. The Volcano is longer than the original nozzle, so I had to adjust the X height for that. The way I did that was on the end limit switch down here. I just bent it up a little so that it's in the correct position and leveled the bed to that. Initially I did try bring the bed all the way down, but that limits my Y travel as the bed hits the Y motor at the back. Also, the design of this brings the nozzle further forwards on the Y. Again, it's something I could counter in firmware, but instead I just moved the limit switch forward from its original position so that the nozzle homes on the bed. I've got it about, I think it works out about 7mm in from the X and the Y is the homing position, which is okay because the build plate itself is larger than 300 by 300. 300 by 300 is the printable area of it though. So yeah, I've got that set. I did discover during my work here that the build plate has got a slight bow in the middle of it. The middle is lower than the rest. I did that by putting a steel rule across, and I could slide a bit of paper in between the steel rule and the bed at the middle, and as I moved it to the edge it got tighter and tighter. So I took the bed, flipped it over, checked the glass on the back, and it had the inverse, so it was tight in the middle and sloppy on the edges. So I'll be looking at getting a new bed sorted for that. Once I got everything set up, I did a couple of test prints. This is the first one I did. Yes, it's a Benchy at 200% scale. Main things to notice is there's a lot of stringing all over it. I haven't yet got my retraction settings fully sorted, and there's also, I'm not sure how well you're going to see this, but there's a layer shift in here. I think it probably got caught by a bit of the infill and just nudged it over, because once it's down it's a lot of plastic and it cools quite quickly and goes firm. But that's not a bad first model with the Volcano. I decided to go for the Volcano because I've got some prints coming up that are massive, and one of them I was looking at with a 0.4mm nozzle, 0.2mm layer height, would be 1 day 19 hours something, and I don't really want to leave the printer run that long. I resliced it with a 0.8mm nozzle and 0.6mm layer height, which is what I'm experimenting with at the moment, and that cuts down to 13 or 14 hours, so it's a slightly more realistic time. So yeah, that's the first benchy. I then decided that I was going to try another one, see if I could improve it. Yeah, didn't improve it that much. There's still some stringing, but a bit less than there was before. So my tweaks towards getting the retraction right obviously have done something. Again, on the edges, again, not sure how well you'll see this, but there's lines in the edge, which is where retraction hasn't worked. So as the nozzle's moved across the print, it's dragging filament across, goes round, and instead of being a straight line, it's got a diagonal. So it's that little bit that's just not quite right. Not sure what's caused the front end to go like that, or other bits. It's not as firm as the other one, so there would have been something not quite right. I think I also changed my extrusion multiplier incorrectly for part of it. I set it too low, which is probably part of the reason for it. It's like the base, you can probably see the separation in the base layer, whereas the first one, there's very little. I probably had that one too squished, and that one just wasn't quite right. Also, I had the temperature at 190 degrees on the first one, 180 degrees on the second one. Let me just try and find my little sheet. I think the first one was printed at about 60 millimeters a second, and the second one was 30 millisecond. Both of them 0.6mm layer height. I think both of them were 5% infill, which is pretty low, and I should have really done more. By having the low infill, trying to cover up on the top layer, at least using Simplify 3D, I haven't found an option to do this. It's probably in there though. It's a massive gap to cover, so the filament doesn't sit on it nicely. So if I'd done it with a higher infill, it would probably be better. Yeah, the second one's cracking and crunching, but the first one is nice and solid. And as I say, I don't mind layer lines in a finished print. I don't mind finishing it and smoothing it out, but it's just this time and speed it takes to actually get to a final print makes it worthwhile. I'm going to do more tweaking to get the settings right. Once I've done that, I will do another video with updated settings so that there's at least a baseline of what I have managed to get working, that I hope some of you will find interesting if you're considering the same sort of setup, or other printers with volcanoes or other high extrusion nozzles. Just gives you options there to be able to get on with it pretty much. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I'm not going to do more 200% benches until I've got everything sorted, because it's still a lot of filament. Not quite as much as if I did the 400% I was looking at. I was looking at printing a 400% benchy on this, but I looked at how much filament that would use, and it was getting on towards 1 kilogram of filament, and yeah, I don't really have that much at the moment. But once I've got these sorted, I can then, or once I've got it sorted for normal printing, which I will be using little test prints for, I can then move on to other things. Do I have a roll? For example, I've got the PLA Splendid, the, was it 3D Hero? Yeah, I think it's 3D Hero, the Rainbow PLA. I got enough there, I could probably do another vase or something, because I think that would look quite nice. I've already done a vase in this though. I'll find something for this, because I think with decent layer lines and layer heights, it's putting out so much more filament, the colour change will happen quicker. But that's for the future. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I'll try and upload a little bit more regularly than I have recently. If you've liked this video, consider clicking the like button down below. If you want to leave a comment, leave one there. You can subscribe to my channel. It's also going to pop up over here somewhere. My face is just going to float around on the screen. And I will link to the videos of me when I first started with the Alfawise U20 over here. Anyway, until next time, I'm Chris Plater and I'll see you later. Bye.